I will start shortly. Willkommen, bienvenue. Welcome to our live stream. You've noticed in the virtual studio, Karen Bashord, the Empowerment Mentor. This is, in fact, the Karen Bashord Show. And we talk about topics that really can affect the way in which you live your life, often because you're not giving yourself what you need. And today is no exception to that. Today's topic is breaking patterns. The love we seek is not necessarily the love we need. That's very cryptic. Karen, explain it to me.
Okay, well, one of the things I realized after going through my breakdown was the fact that I'd married my husband, I was with my partner because it was the love I was seeking and not the love I needed, which meant I was looking for love that matched what I knew rather than what I didn't know.
So, in other words, you created your own idea of what you wanted, which was at complete odds to what you actually needed. So and I think I see this all the time with people
everywhere.
Well, because they get this idea in their mind that I must have it this size, this color, this shape, whatever it is, but actually, that's probably A, not good for them, and B, doesn't satisfy what they needed in the first place. I'm like, does that make sense?
Absolutely, but it goes deeper than that, because one of the things I realized was that I knew how not to be loved, so I sought not to be loved. Because my parents hadn't ever shown me love. So, of course, I'm going to go and find somebody who can show me I'm not loved because they weren't loved. So it's deeper than just the image that you've got in your mind of the person you want. It's what you believe about yourself that brings the person to you, because we are vibrational energy. So energy attracts, as we well know. The law of attraction is so relevant, but it's beyond the law of attraction, because it is what, not only what we believe about ourselves, it's what we're used to, but also not knowing what love is plays a huge part in how we bring the right people or the wrong people to us.
Do you know, it is very confusing knowing that the difference between love and, dare I say, obsession. You get obsessed with the idea of that's the person. I've spoken to girls in the past. I only go for men who look this way, who act this way, and who are that way. And when in actual fact, when you encounter them many years later and they finally found the person to settle down, they couldn't be any more different from that original ideal. You know, it's really quite hard, I think, to work out what's best for you.
Best thing is to just let it go and just allow. But be clear on the kind of relationship you want. It's not the person, it's the relationship that matters. So for me, a relationship with my partner, whenever he turns up, will be somebody who can understand me and not try and control me, because my partner's never understood me and always tried to control. So I don't want another relationship like that. But I also am not asking for not having a relationship like that, because as soon as I start asking for that not, I'm actually bringing it into me. Whereas if I'm clear on that, I want somebody who understands me and will respect me, has the same values or are near enough the same values as me, I will bring that person to me because that's what he's seeking. But if I go by what I've experienced and keep saying, oh, I don't want that, I don't want that, I'm going to bring that back into me.
Yes, it's Do you know what? I have spoken to somebody only this week who was banging on about all the things they didn't want. And I think you're quite right, actually. You're putting it out there, and that's literally what you're going to draw towards you, you know? I think it's quite common, though, that one partner tries to rule the roost or control or set the boundaries, etc., and the other one is supposed to meekly follow. When in actual fact, I think the healthiest way is when there's a bit of give and take between you, that, you know, for a specific project or activity, one person may be saying, look, I'm setting the rules for this, but on another occasion, it could be the other partner. I don't think there should be any hard and fast rule of who lays down the law, you know?
No, there shouldn't be. And the thing about it is, if you look at most relationships, somebody will take the lead, but at the same time, that person will listen to what the other person says. That's a healthy relationship. If the person is being listened to and respected in what they're expressing. If there's no respect or no understanding of what the person is wanting, then what's the point of the relationship? It's just going to cause more problems.
No, I have to say, looking back on past relationships where I've either felt controlled or attempted to be controlling, and it's all one-sided. I think that I think if one side is more controlling than the other all the way through, then it's a lopsided relationship, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, it's a codependency, isn't it? Really?
And
somebody dictating what you're doing and how to behave, basically. So it's codependency.
And it leads
to problems.
It leads to it turning into something it shouldn't be. Is my perception.
It can cause a lot of resentment, because if the person suddenly realizes they're not having any real say in what's going on in their lives, it will lead to resentment. That's what happened with a lot of my time. Was I resented the fact that I had no say. I was so dominated by my partners that I had no say. And I'm the kind of person that likes to say things.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's that passing backs and forwards concepts and ideas, whereby there is equal, or at least some provision made by each partner, that I think leads to a direction that's equitable for both. And when it's imbalanced like that, it just ends up nosediving. And I think
the thing about most of us forget is we need to communicate. We don't communicate. We just allow. And then by allowing, we give away the right to communicate, because we're never going to turn around and say, well, actually, I disagree with you. Because by the time we actually get round to that, there's probably an issue within the relationship itself anyway. So it's hard to come back from that kind of relationship. And I was chatting to somebody yesterday, and I was talking about money mindset. Right. And my comment was, I will never, ever go into a relationship ever again without finding out the true financial situation of the person. Because at the end of the day, I'm not prepared to pay to support somebody anymore, which I did for both my husband and partner, because they would not contribute to the household at all. So consequently, I know that the next partner in my life, I've got to know for certain that their whole attitude is it's a sharing. It's not, I'm going to live off of you. I'm going to do my own thing with my own money, and you're going to have to cope with that. It's not going to be that kind of relationship. And that's where we need to start communicating before we become involved in relationships, especially intimate relationships, because once you're in, it's very hard to extract yourself.
Yes, it's quite because I think once you're in, there is I've put enough into this thing that I don't want to let it go without a struggle, which is I think is a good thing. But you still need to recognize that both sides need to contribute. I think that's and when it's all one way, when it's all one way traffic, like you were describing just now, you're destined for it to come, I suspect, to a sudden halt, or that one side will live in fear and mental anguish for years. And I think that's not a healthy relationship of any kind. Yes, you're quite right. I think I think the problem is, Karen, that a lot of people still find it very difficult to talk about their money to each other. I'm not talking about outside of the relationship, just to each other. It's like, don't worry about that. It'll be sorted. Don't worry about that. But the truth of the matter is, forewarned is forearmed, right? So if you can deal with it together, you can come up with a solution. It's when one of you is either being profligate or, the worst still, not bringing any in at all, or intending to bring any in at all, that creates that imbalance.
But the thing about it, it doesn't matter whether it's money, whether it's the actual relationship and how you want to live your life or what you want to do in your life. Unless you actually communicate with each other, and instead of assuming you know, because that's what we do. We assume, oh, well, I'm with him now. I know what he's saying, so I'm assuming, but I'm putting my take on him rather than him on me. But we need to find the route between us rather than going separate routes and then colliding, because that's what's going to happen. We will literally collide because we both have different perceptions of what we think the other person wants, which is why it's so important. And this is partly what I'm trying to do with everything I'm doing within the business, is to be able to create that communication ability to actually open up topics that are very rarely spoken about in any relationship, let alone an intimate relationship. Until you get those communications open, and it's not just, as I say, intimate relationships, it's relationships, whether it's in business, whether it's, you know, friends or anything like that. Because quite often we have different ideas, but we don't necessarily express it.
Somebody I know well has just sent us a smiley face, so thank you for that, Jonathan. Good to know you're watching. Yeah, it's hard to realize that if you spend a bit of effort on the way into a relationship, that it becomes less painful for it to run its course. And if you're honest with each other and communicate, as you say, then the likelihood is you're going to find a way that you can mesh. I think what the other thing is I came across yesterday afternoon was someone where their partner had been effectively running two lives, and so you have no idea what's really going on. And in the light of today's topic, breaking patterns, you first have to recognize that there is a pattern. But then this confusing me, because if you're looking for there to be a pattern, you're not allowing for a relationship to grow naturally, because you're looking for a pattern, you know?
But you're not looking for a pattern. You'll start picking up on little things that should stand out for you. You're not actually physically looking for those patterns. You're just becoming aware. I became aware that how I was behaving was having an impact on him, but at the same time, how he was behaving was having an impact on me. That becomes obvious. And if you are serious about starting any kind of relationship with anyone, you need to know that person, and you will pick up little nuances unintentionally. Well, and it's like, if you set that intention that I've got this warning system in place that says to me, I need to be aware of these, not consciously, but at an unconscious level, you're not going to pick them up unless there is a problem there. And we forget that we can program our own unconscious minds, subconscious minds, to look for things, because that's all intentions are. It's a program to tell our unconscious minds, our subconscious minds, that I'm looking for this, please be aware of it. But it doesn't mean to say we're actually physically going out and looking for it, in the sense of you're walking down the street and thinking, oh, I must avoid him or I must avoid her, kind of thing.
Well, yeah, but you get that. I mean, like visible things. Someone's got tattoos on their face.
Yeah.
Someone wears a lot of over-the-top jewelry. Someone wears silly hats and bow ties. Whatever it is, it can cause a reaction because people don't communicate well enough. So they make assumptions based on prima facie evidence, but nothing more.
No.
All right. Would you do me a favor, because I think this is a good topic? Would you summarize for me?
Love is what we seek. Loving ourselves is the first step. And when you know yourself well enough, you'll know what you want and what you don't want. However, you don't want to focus on what you don't want. You need to focus on what you want. And that's in every aspect of your life.
Looking for the positive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, there we go. On that bombshell, thank you so much, Karen Bashord, our wonderful empowerment mentor. I have to, as per usual, sorry, forgive me, if you guys have seen this before, you go and do your knitting or whatever it is you need to do. But I'm going to talk briefly about the Empowered Women Life Leaders podcast. There is still a hyphen there. There shouldn't be a hyphen there. I apologize to one and all about the hyphen. I am working on it. But if you go and follow that link, it will take you to it. And it's a thoroughly excellent podcast. There is a video element on the Empowered Women Life Leaders podcast channel on YouTube. Or if you go to follow that link, it takes you to the Podbean version of it. And just bear in mind that you can start your wellness journey. And one of the best ways of doing that is to visit Karen Bashord's website. So if you look at this, you see the KarenBashord.com. That will take you straight there, and you can start a conversation and perhaps find a better way of communicating so that you're being more honest earlier on in your relationships so they last the course. Communication is key. Thank you, one and all. Keep your feet on the ground. Keep reaching for the stars, and please do look after that mental health. Until next week, goodbye.
Bye.